On this edition of the Desert Vision, we take a look at sustainment operations at the Port of Shuaibah, high march training in Kuwait, and what it takes to reopen food vendors during a pandemic.
Welcome to the Desert Vision, presented by U.S. Army Central. I'm Staff Sergeant Ron Keenan.
And I'm Sergeant Jermaine Jackson. All those stories and more coming up. But first, using the excuse that something isn't in your job description isn't a quality that most soldiers are known for. Staff Sergeant Luke Wilson is with a group of soldiers who are going well beyond the scope of their MOS to lend a hand.
To be a soldier means being adaptable, and more often than not, it means doing a job that you haven't been trained for. Here in Camp Arif John, Kuwait, soldiers from a variety of different professions have come together for one mission.
It's nice to get out of the office. When you're in the office 12 hours a day working on a computer, it gets kind of tiring and mundane.
Specialist Anthony Ramirez says it's a good change of tempo and scenery.
So normally, as a 35 Fox, I'm in an office working on PowerPoint most of the day, writing analytical reports. I don't really go outside.
Before COVID-19, almost 1,000 contractors worked at the wash rack to clean different vehicles. Now, around 70 soldiers are accomplishing that mission.
We've got Cav Scouts, tankers, infantrymen out here, along with logisticians, finance, medics, all doing the same mission. They've just come together, they work hard, they get this stuff done. They're a really good team of soldiers. These soldiers out here are the real heroes of this mission. They're the ones who have been coming here day in and day out, working 12-hour shifts, making sure the dirt and dust gets off of them, taking out the grime and grit that these vehicles can get sitting in this weather and in this dust.
So the big difference with that is I'm out here cleaning vehicles, which I'm fine with doing hard work, but it's completely away from the computer and I'm talking to different people every day. So coming out here, talking to different people, it's like a change of pace and it kind of helps the days go by faster.
Everything they have done illustrates not only diversity on a small scale, it represents the Army as a whole. Reporting for U.S. Army Central, I'm Army Staff Sergeant Luke Wilson.
With our workforce being limited due to COVID restrictions, being flexible has been a key component to keeping the mission rolling.
U.S. ARCENT says farewell to its Chief of Staff during a change of command at Shaw Air Force Base. Staff Sergeant Anne-Marie Burrill was behind the lens for the ceremony.
The U.S. Army Central team recently held a ceremony to bid farewell to the outgoing Chief of Staff, Brigadier General Jeffrey Vann, while also welcoming the incoming Chief of Staff, Brigadier General Brian Davis. During the ceremony, U.S. ARCENT Commander Lieutenant General Terry Farrell expressed gratitude for General Vann's contributions to the organization.
Jeff, you have just been truly a lifesaver in many ways. You know this organization. More importantly, you know the organization's downrange. And when we're moving out and we want to go like this, and you know I have a tendency to go now and talk about it later, that's just the nature of the beast. You want to pull us back, and I appreciate that.
The Chief of Staff is responsible for coordinating and synchronizing U.S. ARCENT's talented and experienced staff, a responsibility General Vann says he's honored to have been trusted with.
This staff reacts at the time of need and brings the Army's best education to bear where the nation's needed most in Southwest Asia against a live, versatile, and unforgiving threat. For the support of this staff over the past 2 years, I'm very grateful and greatly appreciate your unrelentless support.
During his remarks, General Davis says he's looking forward to taking the reins as Chief of Staff.
Some of you I've met, most of you I have not. For those of you who I've interacted with over the last couple of weeks, you've really been a big help for me as I try to get spun up. And so I do look forward to working with you in the coming days and meeting all of you. Patton's on.
Reporting for U.S. ARCENT, I'm Army Staff Sergeant Henri Burrill.
Brigadier General Vann is off to Fort Eustis, Virginia, where he takes the role of Commanding General for Task Force Civil Support. We'll be right back.
Man, wash your hands.
Thanks to the cooperation between 2 food service units and AFEAS, those at Camp Arifjan have a few more options to choose from.
A place once teeming with life and energy.
The restaurant's closing was a real setback for a lot of the soldiers who just got here and were expecting things.
Now, they sit barren and empty amongst the pandemic. However, soldiers from various medical units are helping to change that.
What we're doing today and yesterday is a pre-operational inspection. We have to go back in and assume, assess the risk, I guess you could say, of what potential hazards the food preparation and conduct is going to potentially have on the people consuming the food.
Specialist James Harris, along with others in his team at Camp Arifjan, Kuwait, have been conducting inspections of various food vendor locations, completing tasks such as temping incoming food and verifying proper cleanliness standards are being upheld.
These inspections are vitally important because it's the first line of defense to detecting possible foodborne illness outbreaks. If there is any sort of negligence going on, we want to be the first ones to know before it actually starts affecting the population.
Harris says he enjoys his job because he feels he is helping to protect his fellow soldiers' lives.
Keep washing your hands, wear your mask, practice safe social distancing and be cognizant of the environment that we're in.
As medical teams continue to inspect and clear businesses to reopen, implementing those safety measures continue to be a top priority for leadership as we learn how to live with COVID-19. Reporting from Camp Arifjan, Kuwait, for U.S. Army Central, I'm Army Sergeant Jermaine Jackson.
As these food vendors begin to reopen, keep in mind the lines will definitely be as long as the days are hot.
And in that extreme heat, soldiers from Task Force Spartan are still safely conducting training exercises. Army Sergeant Trevor Cullen takes us to the range to check out training on the High Mobility Artillery rocket system.
Soldiers of the 4th Battalion, 133rd Field Artillery Regiment conducted HIMARS training while deployed to the Middle East.
So we recently performed a deployment readiness exercise with the HIMARS launchers. HIMARS launchers are our long-range field artillery weapons that fire missiles and rockets. So the loading process starts with the HIMARS itself, which is a rocket launcher mounted on a truck, backing up to the rocket pods. The pods are located behind the truck. The truck swivels the launcher around, and it actually has a small winch made part of the launcher assembly itself. So the winch comes down, and the operators guide the rocket pod as it's winched up into place and engages the rails and the back of the launcher. So it allows new crews to work through the process hands-on, where you're actually exercising all members of the crew as well as the plans. You determine what parts are working, what parts need improvement, and where you can improve the process to do it safer, more efficiently, and faster. I love it. It's the best job in the Army.
I'm U.S. Army Sergeant Trevor Cullen, reporting for Task Force Spartan.
The soldiers of Task Force Spartan will continue to provide a flexible field artillery force in the U.S. ARCENT area of responsibility.
As we adapt to the life with COVID-19, our process for dealing with the virus becomes more streamlined. Lab techs at Camp Buring recently unveiled a new toy to aid in the fight against COVID.
The mask, both straps, we always double glove. At the outbreak of the COVID crisis, we didn't have a lot of resources to deal with it. We had to draw the nasopharyngeal swab. We had to get it shipped out all the way to Landstuhl, Germany, and that entire process took 1 to 2 weeks. Once we started to get better equipped for it, we were able to do the testing out in Arifjan. However, that still had a 3 to 5 day turnaround time. But now that we have our own analyzer, we can have COVID results to the provider within 51 minutes. We have 2 rooms that are sequestered off from general population. We will have medics in full PPE draw a nasopharyngeal swab. We collect it and process it, and we bring these swab over to our analyzer, which will then give us a positive or negative determination of COVID. The entire process takes about an hour. It doesn't take long to collect a sample at all. And once that sample is processed, it's 51 minutes flat for a yes or a no. So from the time the patient walks into the front door to the time the provider gets a phone call, it's 1 hour. Right now, we've only had a few. We want to keep it that way. But we do know that, hey, it's out here and it's spreading. So in the meantime, we will test, we will educate, we will provide resources where necessary until it is that we get this crisis taken care of and we can move forward. It's certainly humbling to know that everybody on Camp Buring has so much faith in our ability to test for COVID and to frontline this entire crisis. But it also feels exhilarating to be able to say that, hey, we are the ones pioneering this and that we're charging ahead without fear, because at the end of the day, it's about protecting soldiers, and that's why I'm wearing this uniform.
Sergeant Garrett's counterpart, Sergeant Thomas, also serves as a biology teacher in his hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. Seems like those in Buring are in good hands. We'll have more from U.S. Army Central right after this.
The Army's anti-terrorism program is critical to supporting Army warfighter readiness. A goal for the Army is to integrate anti-terrorism planning into all Army operations at home and overseas. Law enforcement and security forces protect our communities, but they cannot do it alone. Every member of the Army community is a sensor.
Terrorist threat awareness and reporting is the cornerstone to preventing acts of violence. Our anti-terrorism efforts educate community members on the nature of the threat and how to report suspicious activity or behavior. Given the persistent nature of terrorism, foreign and domestic, Army leaders should include terrorism prevention measures in everything they do in order to protect and preserve Army readiness.
Vigilance and active community awareness are key to preventing a terrorist attack and ensuring that our force remains lethal and ready to serve our nation and defeat any foe.
See something?
Say something.
Americans love to vote, so request your absentee ballot at fvap.gov and send your most important vote back home.
Welcome back to the Desert Vision, presented by U.S. Army Central. We are in month 2 of Project Inclusion, which is meant to push diversity in our fighting force. Staff Sergeant David Graves sat down with Brigadier General Tina Boyd to discuss the topic.
What does diversity and inclusion mean to you?
So it means tapping into all the talents that are in the formation, and those talents come in various degrees, and they come in from various people from all different backgrounds, and that's what diversity and inclusion means to me. It means that everybody feels comfortable, that they can succeed. A lot of times in the military, we have people that are very good following the regulations. They've got the textbook answer, they got the schoolhouse answer and all that, but sometimes that always doesn't get us to the ultimate goal that we want to be at. So diversity and inclusion brings in those folks who don't necessarily have that answer. They have something that somebody hasn't thought about, and they bring that into the equation, and we get a better result ultimately. So are we prepared? Are we ready to go to war when we need to be? And I think that that is probably the best indicator. And do we have the best ideas available to us to complete the mission? Because they come from the diverse backgrounds that we all have. So are those being considered and when we make our decisions?
The Secretary of the Army put his stamp on Project Inclusion. I know you've read through that in its entirety. What is your response to that?
Well, I think it's definitely a great initiative, and I think it's really going to help some of the soldiers who don't feel like they are included. I think that there's probably a disconnect between the leadership sometimes and the soldiers in those formations. And as leaders, we know that we have got to make everybody successful, because the team won't be successful unless everybody is. So I think it's a fabulous idea that we are now pushing this out to ensure that all those young soldiers know that they can make a difference, and really helping them understand what kind of value that they're bringing to the formation, because we have always been taught it's your rank and it's your MOS, and it's so much further beyond that. We want you on the team, because in order for us to be a better country, a better Army, better military, we need everybody on board.
We're having the hard conversations. We're talking to our leaders. The leaders are talking to their troops. Where do we go from here?
We have a lot of challenges ahead of us, and if we do not include our entire population, not only just within the Army, but outside the Army, to entice those young soldiers or those young candidates to come on board with us, then we're going to have a tougher challenge. I'm very happy to see this going on, and the truth and the honesty and the transparency is all very significant. And I think it's really important that leaders engage soldiers at all levels and help them understand where they can contribute above and beyond what their MOS is, for instance, and let them know that as leaders, our job is to make the unit successful. And it's only successful if everybody is successful. We'll be so much better off when everybody is involved in the solution and can account for its success.
Brigadier General Boyd encourages leaders to continue to have those hard conversations across the formation and reminds us that the only color in the Army is green. Diversity and inclusion go much further than skin color. August 26 marks National Women's Equality Day to commemorate the passage of the 19th Amendment into law in 1920. That amendment, signed by Secretary of State Bainbridge Colby on August 26, gave women the right to vote. In 1971, Bella Abzug proposed National Women's Day to Congress. It was first celebrated in 1973 and since has grown into much more than just recognition of the amendment. Organizations across the globe continue to work and fight to ensure equal opportunity while pushing back against suppression and discrimination. We'll be right back.
Our force of the future must continue to benefit from the best people America has to offer.
Stop worrying about whether a woman can do it and say, well, can a 150-pound Ranger do what's necessary to accomplish the mission?
It's about aptitude, being the very best you can be. And when the opportunity arrives, seize it.
We are a meritocracy in the Marine Corps. That's what's so great about where we are right now as a service and as a Corps.
It's up to you to go after things where people say no if you believe it to be right.
The retrograde yard receives and processes all of the serviceable and unserviceable equipment in the CENTCOM footprint. Despite working with limited personnel, they're still getting the job done.
The retrograde yard, we receive, sort, and process all serviceable and unserviceable equipment and put it back into the Army system or turn it in, and we send it to DLA-DS. Basically, we have all type of equipment that's in the Army supply system, from engines, to transmissions, to cylinders, to parts, tools, tires, wheel assemblies. Anything that's in the system comes in through retrograde. Most of the equipment comes from the units that's out here deployed. Some of it comes from Iraq, some of it comes from Afghanistan, some of it comes right here on base. A lot of times when the units are leaving, they have equipment that they have to turn in, and it comes out here, and we get it to DLA-DS or we get it back into the Army system. The COVID-19 pandemic has completely changed the way we conduct business. As a solution, we were augmented soldiers, and we also was provided personnel from other sections to help us out. It got us going, but we developed a big backlog due to all of this. So hopefully once we get all our people back, we'll get everything rolling again. For our operation, with the amount of people that we had here, everyone did an outstanding job. Because at one time we only had about 5 people here. Once the soldiers came, that helped us out. And then recently we was able to get some employees back on base and some other contractors. So we're slowly now getting things back to going, and things are looking on the upside.
The retrograde yard currently has 2 sections that are fully operational. They are reaching full capabilities as things are slowly returning to normal.
Army Sustainment provides the support necessary to maintain operations until mission accomplishment. Captain John Thomas of the 87th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion is here to give us an up-close look at Army Sustainment operations at the Port of Shueba.
So Army Sustainment is getting munitions, supplies, material, anything from beans to bullets from the depots here to the warfighter in the front line. I'm Captain John Thomas. I'm the current operations officer for the 87th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion. So for this operation, the vessel arrived to the seaport. It was an effort between a lot of different organizations. There were canine units that ensured the port was clear. There were divers that swept the port, as well as the vessel and the tugboats that brought it in. And then once it arrived, it was downloaded by local contractors and moved on contracted trucks to the yard here. And then it was downloaded and organized. After it was organized, then our trucks loaded it up and bring it to the ammunition point for the theater. And then from here, Army vehicles and personnel will take it to the front lines to support the warfighter. This is how Army Sustainment sustains the warfighter.
The sustainers of the 87th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion continue to support the warfighter throughout CENTCOM and beyond.
Some service members rely on coffee as a part of their daily routine. A handful of people at Camp Arajon are doing all they can to fuel that need.
Well, just about every service member loves a good cup of coffee, even in the middle of a hot desert. Holy Joe's coffee is completely donated, and from the supplier to the airplane, to the trucks, to the service member, it's all a goodwill effort to build up morale. And as chaplains, our job is to improve morale when we can. And basically, Holy Joe's coffee has helped us to do that.
Holy Joe's came to be June of 2006. One Sunday, we heard about the need of coffee over at a location in Baghdad. One of our church members was deployed with the Connecticut Air National Guard. Sent word back that the chaplain had used all the coffee they had on the base, and he had 5 100-cup coffee urns, percolators going around the clock. So when I heard the need for coffee, I said, I think I can do this. I heard a voice said, go for it.
When we learned that Holy Joe's Cafe was providing free coffee, and lots of it, we decided to do whatever we could to help in that process. From start to finish, there's a special attention paid to ensure Holy Joe's coffee is transported so that it ends up in the hands of troops all across the globe.
Our goal is to bring people together to relax in a place where they can sit down, have great coffee, know that they're not forgotten too from America, and also if they want to speak with a chaplain, any other reason, it's whatever the individual soldier, sailman, airman, or Marine or National Guardman wants, it's up to them.
It is my prayer that as we get this coffee in the hands of chaplains, that they would continue to move it to the most austere places in the world and get a good cup of coffee in the hands of our troops.
Chaplain Dave welcomes anyone to his office for a coffee and a conversation when needed.
Well, that will do it for us here at U.S. Army Central.
For more stories, check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/U.S. Army Central.
Reporting for the 304 Sustainment Brigade, I'm Staff Sergeant Ron Keenan.
And for U.S. Army Central, I'm Sergeant Jermaine Jackson.
Pat and Zone.
Always forward.